Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, EggChasers. It's the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, a podcast about rugby that doesn't take itself or the game too seriously. I was sort of waiting for you to kick things off, JB.
All right, sorry. Well, here we are, not taking the game or ourselves too seriously.
And we're in three separate TMO, EggChasers TMO shipping containers in various parts of the world. Myself, I'm in the flight path of the planes in Los Angeles.
Oh, lovely. Are you flying back today, Tim?
Tomorrow.
Lovely. What rugby-esque stuff have you done?
I'll tell you what I did yesterday.
Yes, please.
I went for drinks with a long-time listener of the podcast who has just moved to Los Angeles with his family. I'm not going to name him or say anything about him just because I don't know whether he would want to, but he's a big fan of the pod. And we had beers at altitude yesterday, overlooking Los Angeles together in the sunshine, and it was it was fabulous. But a very, very interesting man. Well, we'll talk about him another time. But a very, very interesting fellow. We have great listeners. We have great listeners.
We've actually got another podcast listener who's moving back from LA this week with his family to the UK. God knows why he would do that, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, I tell you what, I flipping love this place. I was braced. When you look at stuff through your little phone, that little screen you hold in your hand, and it paints a picture of the world or places or whatever. It's like Americans think, you come from the UK. Oh, you flew out of London. Oh, did you have to, avoid getting stabbed on your way to the airport?
Well, I mean, they're not wrong, are they? I mean, some things are true for a reason.
I was braced for just seeing streets filled with tents of homeless people. I bloody love LA. Although now I'm not house sitting, and we spent the last few days in hotels and stuff. Flipping heck, it's expensive. But anyway, that's partly because the UK is slowly grinding to a halt. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of me. Where are you, Phil?
Sort of slowly.
I'm in Jay's neck of the woods, actually. I'm in North Wales. Very sunny North Wales today. It's lovely.
JB, are you detecting Phil speaking quite softly? I'm guessing there's small children just asleep.
I imagine that's exactly what's happened.
There are small children asleep directly above me, and this is not the biggest cottage with the thickest walls, so I'll be a bit quiet today.
So Bill is cottaging. Brilliant.
How's your rugby week been? So is the season finished, or have you been in Papa John's Cup mode, JB?
Papa John Cup action this week, which we lost again to West Park St Helens. I was not involved because my rib is a bit sore, and also I think I don't ever want to play ever again. But that'll change come September.
I was going to say, it wouldn't be the first time we've heard that.
Yeah, exactly right. We will reassess the situation in a few weeks' time after some R&R. But I'll tell you what, first weekend in ages I've been able to watch as much live rugby as I have because I didn't have any Saturday commitments. So that was good fun. And I watched all of today's game, and that was great fun.
Well, we've certainly got a lot of Champions Cup and Challenge Cup to talk about, which we will. But I think you've just inadvertently raised quite a good point there. Now, Didsbury Toc H did fulfil their Papa John's Cup fixture, but I gather lots and lots of teams did not.
Yeah, I imagine this would be the case. I love the Papa John's Cup. I mean, like, I didn't play this week, so I've got to be careful what I say. And truth be told, if I really had to, I probably could have. It's a great competition. It's a great idea for a competition. It's exactly when the Cup should be. But I think at the end of a long season, for some teams, they just want to finish.
I
think, as always, sorry on.
I can definitely see that. Like, at the end of a long season, particularly when it's not been the best season, when you've had more losses than wins, and you've been struggling to get 15, 18 boys out every single week, I can understand why lots of teams are they find it hard to fulfill the fixture. Yeah. But
not only that, if you're fighting tooth and nail.
Well, I do think you're right. It's a good opportunity and it's a good time if the stars align. So for the teams that are doing well and they've had a good number of wins and they're up near the top end of the league and they've consistently got 20-plus boys to training and 20-plus boys ready for the weekend squads, it's a great time of year for it.
It's definitely the right way to do the Cup. I have no doubt about that. I love the fact it's interleague as well. So you go potentially across the country. I think that's great. But like, if you've been fighting relegation and you've either, or you've been like we have right at the top of the league fighting to win it, and then you fall short, is so hard to raise yourself. But that's not the fault of the Cup. That's just a fact of life. This goes back to what I have said for a long time, which is the Cup should be something that everybody pays into at the start of the season. Now, Papa John's Cup can't be that because the ultimate prize is you go to Twickenham. But the county cups, like the Lancashire Cup, they should be that. And every player should pay into it at the start. So we've got a massive prize fund. And then the team that wins, the prize fund gets distributed amongst the players. And I think that would be awesome because you would want to play that.
Well, what about that? Because I quite like that idea. Combined with putting some skin in the game at the start of the season. So you have your 1-2 warm-up games for the regular season as the preliminary rounds of the Cup. And that kind of gets you involved, gets you engaged. You also pay into it and give you the prize fund. And then from the end of the season, if you've won your first 2 games, you're involved. You're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, Phil. I think preliminary rounds, I mean, no one does anything of any use really in the pre-season anyway, unless you're really serious. So why not?
Well, and even being really serious, like we've seen, Argentina beat the All Blacks when they'd been locked in hotel rooms for a month in their quarantine. So if your conditioning and your training's good enough, you don't even you might one pre-season game might be an advantage. So slot it in there.
Do you think this maybe speaks to something more fundamental and this is something else you've spoken about for a long time, JB, in understanding your audience or your customers, if you think of your players like that, and understanding what they want and giving them a product or giving them an experience that
exactly
matches
right.
that. I don't think rugby players these days, and it might be the COVID thing, it might just be I don't know. For multiple reasons, I think it's the case that people don't want to commit 30-odd weeks of their year to rugby.
There is an element of that. Yeah, there is an element of that. Definitely, you just need bigger squads. Because it's not that you don't find the lads. There are lads in second team that can't wait to play and they don't get the opportunity. So I don't think it's simply the case that there's not enough. That you run out of players. Just need to have bigger squads. Definitely. And you need to work out how to get bigger squads, like train once a week. Just simple things like that.
Fair.
Yeah. Talking of cups, let's talk about is it Investec Cup, the Heineken Cup, the Champions Cup? What do you want to call it?
If you're giving the sponsor their dues, it's the Investec Champions Cup.
There we go, Investec Champions Cup. I'm going to start off negatively. I'm going to say this. This is such a shadow of the great competition it used to be. So there are still some good games to be had in the pool stages. There's the occasional good game in the knockouts. I can't really think of one last week. There probably was one, but I'm overlooking it.
I think game. La Rochelle Munster.
Yeah, okay. Munster, that was a serious game. Everything else was washouts. And unbelievably, in the quarterfinals, everything was a washout, except for one game.
Yeah, three out of 4 complete one-sided games with... I made a point the other week about I don't mind if it's a low-scoring game, a high-scoring game, as long as you get to the last 10 minutes and either team could win. There's jeopardy.
Yeah.
It comes down to the last few plays. There's an arm wrestle. And 3 of these games, there was no arm wrestle. It was
no embarrassment, are they, really? I mean, Europe used to be full of interesting teams. Like really interesting teams, and you couldn't wait for the battle between like Leicester Tigers and Cast, or I don't know, Harlequins and Stade Francais. Like you just didn't know what was going to happen. They'd both be powerful teams. I don't know how this has happened as such across all the leagues, it would seem, but they just seem to have polarised. With the exception of the Premiership, I think the Northampton result is a complete aberration. I don't know how that happened. I don't think the Premiership is stronger than the other leagues. I just think it's more fate that's got Northampton into a semi-final. But the top 4, the URC, even the top 14, it seems to be all of the talent is going towards a handful of teams, and everyone else is getting battered.
It does appear like that, and that there's maybe half a dozen clubs in France, but really the top 3 or 4 in Bordeaux, Toulouse, Toulon this year, and La Rochelle in the previous years they've just kind of sucked in all the talent, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They really have. I mean, I thought that Bordeaux versus Munster was going to be a right ding-dong. I thought Munster had that sort of grit about them, the European pedigree, everything else, to really make a good run of it. Bordeaux embarrassed them. And Bordeaux did it with like just almost no possession. I thought Munster for the first 10 minutes were way on top and they looked like a good team. And then they just fell to pieces.
And this is a great example of what Bordeaux do. So Bordeaux, they had 4-try bonus point within half an hour. They hit game over within half an hour, and Bordeaux kind of switched off. They gave up. They'd finished playing within half an hour, and so Munster made the scoreline look respectable. And fair play to Munster, they never stopped trying. They battled right through to the 80th minute, but they were miles off. They were not close to Bordeaux in terms of quality, and Bordeaux just did enough and then switched off in perhaps a way that other teams, Leinster, Toulouse, might not do, and that's maybe one of the weaknesses in Bordeaux's.
It's 2 weeks in a row they've done that as well. They were 29-3 up against Munster. They were 21-0 up against Ulster, and both times just sort of went, right, well, job done.
Yeah,
but they don't just switch off towards the end. They switch off in between scoring, I find. So their defence gets a bit lax. I tell you where they were good is the line-out. They ruined Munster's line-out, and that's weird because I always think of Munster as an excellent set-piece team.
Yep. Munster had a terrible day with their line-out, and it was
awful.
And that was one of the stories of those 2 games, the Bordeaux and Northampton wins, is Northampton scored Bordeaux scored a couple of tries, and Northampton got tries off of line-out turnovers.
Yes.
It's obviously a really important attacking platform when you have the ball, but it's really dangerous if you turn opposition ball over. And yeah, Munster, I think probably, I mean, what was the difference in points? 18 points? I think their line-out was probably worth 18 points because of what it took away from Munster and what it gave to Bordeaux. And
actually, Bordeaux are lethal on the counter. So it's even more important when you line out against Bordeaux. The last people you want to be turning over against when you've got a staggered attacking line is Pinot and company. The last people.
Yeah. they're pretty handy with turnover ball.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that probably does account, doesn't it, for last year's top 14 final as well, which is they do turn off. And when they do turn off, Toulouse just gave them an absolute kicking, and they carried on kicking them until they were dead.
Yes. And I think, like, Bordeaux hopefully have improved that for the big games, but there's little evidence that they have really improved it from the other games. Like in this game, in the Ulster game, in the Leicester game earlier in the season, they'd score like three tries early on, and then just switch off. And like Panoe's on the sideline having a pint and a fag, while Munster are running in tries, and then they realise, oh no, actually they're within 2 scores now. We better score again, and BRA will turn up, or Diaby will turn up, or Van Rensburg, or Mofan, or any number of those boys will turn up for another 5 minutes, score 7 points, and then go back to having their pint and a fag.
Yeah, they are a remarkable team.
But to your broader point, JB, like this whole competition this year, I cannot remember in the 30 years of this competition, I cannot remember a more disappointing Champions Cup, which I don't like starting with the negative, and we'll get on to the great rugby in a minute, but it is a real concern, isn't it?
It's rubbish. I mean, these are the weekends. I remember getting so excited for Champions Cup, and you just look at the fixture like, who's going to win that? And this should be like the superpowers of European rugby. Now, the problem is the Premiership is never going to be a superpower, or won't be for a long time, because of the parity throughout the league. So you're not going to get that outstanding team. But in the French league and the URC, it's gone too far the other way. You know, they are draining all the lower teams of their talent, so they can all play at Toulon, Toulouse, Leinster. I mean, I was
going to say the French teams do operate under a salary cap.
They do, but when the salary cap is high enough, it's no longer a salary cap.
It's 10 million euros. It's 10 million euros, and then you get credits, much like in England, you get credits for having French international players. So I think Toulouse, I believe, their notional salary cap with all the credits added for French international players is it's between 12 and 13 million euros.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
It's quite a lot of money.
It's quite a lot of money. Phil, what do you reckon?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say it's roughly double the Premiership spend.
Yeah. So I think I read somewhere last week that I think the bottom team in the top 14 pays or spends just a little bit more than the top team in the Premiership. That's Van.
Yeah, I would very much believe that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the names as well. It's not that surprising. What do you reckon Leinster spend, Phil?
Nice lineup, JB.
Before you get into it, Phil, I just want to make the point. It's a strange thing which, even when you mention or you start to go, I wonder what Leinster's salary spend is. And I think it's an interesting question, and it's relevant, and it gives context, and it helps you to judge apples versus apples. Exactly the same way you said the French budget for Toulouse is roughly double what Northampton Saints will be spending this year, and they're both in the semi-finals of the Champions Cup. That's useful for context. It's not to take anything away from how brilliant Toulouse are, but weirdly, when you even mention, I wonder what Leinster's salary cap is. So the process you're going to go through right now really riles Leinster fans up. They get very defensive about this. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's one of those subjects you're not allowed to question, like climate change, lockdowns. Leinster salary cap is right up there. Right up there. Just don't talk about it. Mass immigration. Don't talk about it.
So alongside the figures that you've already mentioned, there was something doing the rounds this week that suggested that the Leinster salary cap was 16 million. Oh, it's not a salary cap. The Leinster spend was 16 million euros, which, in the context of spending 20% more than Toulouse, it seems like an astronomical sum. And spending 10 million, let's just for a second equate euros to pounds. I know they're not quite the same, but 10 million more than the Premiership clubs. It does seem like an astronomical figure, to which we were debating on one of our group chats, and Kirk, friend of the pod, EggChaser Rugby player, Vets player, Sevens player, an all-round good lad, said £16 million or euros as a kind of salary spend seems crazy in the market. And my priors were that 16 million euros it's an astronomical amount of money, but it's actually a lot of those Leinster players, because of the Ireland position and the IRFU meddling and moving players around, a lot of those players are actually under market value. So I did a few fag packet calculations. Take these with a pinch of salt to see whether it's right that 16 million euros whether it could be possible that some of those players are under market value.
So can I just test some of your assumptions before you go into it?
Yes.
Okay, so we did this little thing with Entomac the other day, didn't we? And I actually ran these numbers past an agent, and we were like, yeah, maybe it would cost about 1.6 million quid for Tigers to get him over there. So just to fill in the listeners, we were thinking, what was the least efficient way for Tigers to buy a fly half? And we decided it was to buy Roman Entomac, because the amount of money it would cost to move him from a great situation into Leicester Tigers would be the worst spend of money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the market isn't just for the quality of the player, is it?
No, you've got to buy them out of their situation. And if you are onto a really, really, really good thing like Roman Entomac and a load of the Leinster players are, it's like we said for years that Saracens probably, even though they were definitely bursting the salary cap, they probably got players for under their market value because they got players who wanted to win things. So you could get someone for 50 grand cheaper.
Well, a great example of that. Do you remember when Ed Slater was a guest on the pod? And that's one of the things he said, is because we were discussing his controversial move from Leicester to Gloucester when he felt quite slighted by Leicester at the time, and we were asking him, about money, all the rest of it, and he said then, and it's only more true now, that money isn't really a value given the situation Ed Slater is in now. Since then, money has a value, but memories and success and medals. He said he would take a massive chunk less money to win a Premiership title.
Yeah. So you take a player like Caelan Doris. That might be a better example than Caelan Doris, which I'll come to in a second. But say if you wanted Caelan Doris to play for the Northampton Saints, Harlequins, right? You would have to pay him 120 to 130% what Leinster would pay him.
More.
So more than that, because he couldn't play for Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got to pay international wages, haven't you? To compensate for not being international. And in addition to that, you're probably loading that player with a lot more responsibility. So when he shows up to, and this way is not a good example actually, when he shows up to Leinster, I'm sure he's a great leader because he captains the side on occasions. But if you're taking him to Harlequins, he's like the driving force. He is the main man. Whereas Leinster, he's captain, but he's part of a bigger team. Like he's a cog in a well-oiled machine. Same for Intermac.
Yeah. Which is why I think you'd have to pay, I think 120 to 130% of his Leinster salary. I think that's way too conservative. I think you'd have to pay at least double, like genuinely.
You can include tax, you include moving, you include lack of international caps, you include lack of opportunity because you're not an Ireland international after your retirement,
and you include the cost, the opportunity cost of not winning, not potentially winning multiple URC and multiple...
Not getting to finals of the Champions Cup.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Or indeed the URC, Tim. Don't forget that.
Yeah, semi-finals of the URC.
Semi-finals of the URC.
So let me just run you through my fag packet calculations. So,
yes, please.
Leinster reported at 16 million euros, which is a lot. it's a lot of money, and that's their player spend before you have stadium management, coaches, anything else, any other spends. So 16 million euros. Now Leinster do have a big squad, including academy players. There are 65 registered Leinster players. That is massive. Massive.
So can I put
squad.
that into context? Can I put into context for our listeners? Sale Sharks used to operate with 30 plus 2 in their first team squad, plus the academy lads, right? I think the biggest squad in recent memories, I think, might have been Bristol at 70. Exeter ran something like 70 when they first got promoted. So these squad sizes are reminiscent not of champions as such, but of teams getting promoted to the Premiership when they're turning over all of their players. That's how big this squad is.
Yeah, it's like a transitional squad. From like I remember I played against that Exeter team when they were going up in 2009, 2010, that kind of time, and they had all of their like older boys, long-standing boys who were on longer-term contracts, and then they brought in a load of new players, better players on new contracts. Hence why it was such a big squad. It was like that transitional era. Anyway, 65 players is huge. Now, of that 65, 21 of them are academy. But of the remaining 44, 32 of the remaining 44, so like 75% of the remainder, are full internationals. So I don't know if there's any other, maybe Glasgow or someone, or maybe Benetton, but even them.
So what were the numbers there? What were the 32?
32 are full internationals. So
wow.
Most of those are Ireland internationals, but obviously you've got Rabah Slimani, you've got Geordie Barrett, you've got RG Sneeman, maybe.
Well, you might go further, mightn't you, and say they're not just internationals, because you can play that game a little bit with Leicester Tigers. It's like active internationals, isn't it? And that's
also a point that Phil has made on the little WhatsApp chats is that a lot of if you just want to compare apples with apples, there's quite a lot of teams that have lots of internationals, but they're USA internationals or Tongan internationals. These are like top tier Ireland and New Zealand.
Yeah, there are no Ghanaians here.
Yes, yeah. There's no one playing Kenya Sevens.
So the only team I can think of in the UK, in Britain, England, I should say, which would be close. I bet Ospreys would have been close at one point, but no, Welsh, whatever. Saracens. So
in their pomp,
just thinking through it, in their pomp, yeah. So I think the whole of the pack would be internationals. The reserves come off the bench would be Jamie George or Scout Brits or whoever. The halfbacks, Owen Farrell. Would you class Wigglesworth as a full international?
He's a full, yeah. He's definitely a full international. He's got 20 England caps.
He does have 28, but like a current full, that's a kind of questionable one for me. As is Lazowski. Is he a full international in their pomp? Probably not. I mean, he is, but he's not current.
Bath could put out a team who have played international rugby for a top level team.
Yeah, they probably could.
I bet Bath could. No.
Like Duncan Taylor. Does Duncan Taylor class as a full international?
So
he definitely is a full international, but was he current?
Well, so my calculations don't distinguish between current and historic. Like Rabah Slimani is a good example. Yeah. He is, I don't know how many caps he's got, maybe 50 France caps. He wasn't in their Six Nations squad, but he's a full, 57 France caps Rabah Slimani's got.
He was in their wider Six Nations training squad.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's current then. Yeah. Sneeman obviously is. Geordie Barrett's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, and Geordie Barrett this week showed...
Oh, he was unreal.
...why he's one of the best in the world. Like, his big hits and soft hands. You can summon it this week.
4 turnovers.
And turnovers and everything.
Is that right?
Anyway, so of the So we've got the 65 players. 21 of those are academy. The 12 are full-time players but non-academy, and 32 are full-time players and full international players. If we just break it down and we make some assumptions, so we assume that the 21 academy players are on 40k average, and the 12 non-internationals are on 130k average. And the reason that's 130,000 euros. And the reason I've picked those two numbers is because they are the Premiership average for academy players and non-international players. So they're
So I have to correct you there, Phil. So the second number is right, but actually the number you're referring to, the 40, did you say 45?
I said 40,000 euros as well.
40, yeah, the 40,000 number is the most frequently occurring Premiership salary rather than the average. And the reason for that is
that the most frequently occurring is also the average. It's just a different average. It's medium. It's medium rather than mean.
Okay, fine. Let's go with that
then. You are right. It's an indicative figure because it's actually hard to get averages for that. But if we assume,
and the reason that exists, okay, is not because of value. It's because of how the credits land, which means that number can be excluded from your salary cap. So it'd just be interesting to know what Leinster actually pay their academy guys, because that's the most you can pay in the Premiership without eating into your cap.
Yeah, and I've actually wound it down. So the most in the Premiership is £50,000 as of the latest salary cap report. I've assumed €40,000, which is more like £35,000 or £34,000. So I've assumed a lower figure on that, but it doesn't really move the needle because you've got 21 guys at 40k each, so that's 800k for those academy boys. So you're taking off 5% of that 16 million. You could massively increase. You could increase that to the £50,000, so nearly 60,000 euros, and it doesn't really move the needle on it. So the only 12 full, they're full squad players, but non-international players. I've assumed 130,000 euros because that again is consistent with the average, the mean average, not the median, so not the most commonly occurring, but the mean average in the Premiership as of the last Premiership salary cap report, which was 21-22. So it's probably a little bit light, but it serves a purpose. So that means that there's 13.6 remaining million euros for 32 internationals, which equates to 425k per international, which sounds like a lot. Like, to me, that sounds like a lot, and it sounds like it does. It sounds to me it sounds incongruous to say that the average Leinster player is earning 425,000 euros is under market value, but I'm going to make that argument anyway, because so you wind that down to British pounds, and it's about 370,000 British pounds, and the average high-level international in the Premiership in 2022 was £340,000.
Yeah, so sounds about right to me.
Yeah, so you just adjust that for inflation, and it's £370,000 from 2022 to where we are now, and that's a conservative adjustment for inflation. So
I think you can also take.
So go on.
Sorry, I keep cutting across you because of the timing difference. I think the best way to look at it is just take them out of the Leinster team or find a comparative player. So, like, what is Jack Willis paid? Probably something like 400,000 for Toulouse. That sounds like Van der Fleer money to me. You know, if I want him to play in Toulouse, it doesn't sound unreasonable for a Caelan Doris.
Oh no, and I think if they got their market value it might even be whatever Jack Willis is paid, Van der Fleer or Caelan Doris would earn at least that.
Well, the reason I go with Jack Willis is because I think Toulouse are a team that would not pay 130%.
No,
I think Toulouse are one of the guys who get them for market value, actual market value, or below.
So if we go with my assumptions and we say the 16 million and the 65 players and 32 of those are fuller internationals, and we take off the academy and the non-internationals, then the average international in Leinster is paid the same as the average international in the Premiership. And I would and that would include, exactly as Tim said before, your average Tongan, Samoan, USA, what other Georgian international that we've got in the Premiership. And I would quite strongly argue that the average Leinster international is of higher quality than the average Premiership international. And so I think it is reasonable. So this is both a compliment and a criticism of Leinster. Like, they have got genuinely amazing world-class players in pretty much every position. But they are also getting them for probably a touch below market value because they are Leinster, and because of the IRFU, and because they have got, Geordie Barrett has gone to Leinster to win things. He's gone to win things for himself. He's gone to win things for Leinster. Most other teams, certainly no team in the Premiership at the moment would be able to get Geordie Barrett. Maybe a couple of teams.
Saracens would have. Because the other example with Geordie Barrett, right, is he wants to go somewhere to improve himself. Where would he go?
Yeah. Yeah, Toulouse.
Leinster. Yeah, maybe Bordeaux. There's just no one in the Premiership fits that bill. I mean, maybe, this is a stretch, maybe a Northampton because of the way that they play and the Hurricanes link, and it's a stretch though. Saracens in their day, maybe.
Yeah, those are. I think Saracens in their day, when they were bursting the salary cap bubble, maybe. But he's gone to Leinster for good reason, and the reasons are both financial and the performance base, and the performance, exactly as you say, to get better and to win things. So
yeah,
I don't think it's unreasonable to say Leinster have the biggest salary cap in Europe, or the biggest budget in Europe. I also think it is accurate to say they have assembled a team that, if that team got their market value, and if Caelan Doris was able to go to Bordeaux, and Ringrose and Henshaw could go to La Rochelle and Toulouse respectively, and so on and so forth, if you dismantled that team, it would be worth more than the 16 million euros that they currently pay for it. I think that is an accurate statement to make. And I also think that's a compliment to Leinster. A little bit of a criticism, but also a massive compliment.
Just to push back on that slightly, maybe is the answer, because think of James Lowe, good example. Say if he's on your average, I mean, I would never pay him £360,000, not in a million years. But it doesn't mean he's not an awesome player, because he's awesome for what Leinster and Ireland do. He's so integral. But if you put him in a team that play differently, nah. And I wonder how many of the Leinster players fall into that category, which is an incredible player for Leinster, but would they get the same kind of value, I guess, if they went elsewhere? Most of the pack would, I think. I think most of the pack would. Not convinced all the backs would.
So there probably is something in that. But what I would also say is that £370,000 is it's a mean average, and that the distribution of that will roughly follow a normal curve. And we know from the Premiership salary cap report that wings are just about the lowest paid players on average. So he might only be making it up. But if he's at the 2 standard deviations away from the mean, or 3 standard deviations away from the mean, he might be on 250 to 280k. And then And then that starts to look like very good value for one of the best wingers in the world.
Well, I tell you where they are getting value. I bet Prendergast is not paid what he is going to be paid in the future. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he will be on a barely above academy contract.
And Prendergast's a really good example of why, and again, I don't understand the defensiveness when this conversation happens from Leinster fans, because I think one of the things that Phil's already touched on that is worth emphasising, that these aren't players that they buy in. These are players that they grow on their own patch. And the systems and the quality of coaching, the investment in coaching and pathways and player development, and it's absolutely amazing. And one of the things, I can't remember who was talking about this, but I was having a conversation with some rugby luminary while I was working on a match, and they were talking about the difference between players that come through at Leinster versus players that come through almost anywhere else at any other club. And who was saying it? I can't remember. But the one thing they said that defines a Leinster academy player is you'll ask an English Premiership academy player to do something, and they'll just go and do it. The Leinster academy player will ask why, and they're just like their rugby brains. The way that they produce these people, they produce not just great athletes, but just people that have amazing rugby brains. And it's just it's an amazing factory that Leinster have got, and so it shouldn't be taken as criticism, because they're producing all of these guys and supplementing it with one or two world-class talents, as they've got every right to do.
Yeah, I think where this falls down, right, why they get so defensive is not that they spend the money, or it might be money well spent. It's the fact that the IRFU are not spending it equally among all the other regions. And I suspect Connacht or Munster might be saying something like, well, if we had 16 million quid, we might be winning everything, and we might do it better.
If Ulster had 32 full internationals, they might do something occasionally. They might win some silverware.
Yeah, and I think Munster as well.
Places aren't producing players with the regularity or the quality that Leinster are.
That is very.
Well,
true.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't if you didn't pay me 16 million. But you say that. Munster have got a really nice track record of producing players, both now and historically. And I think
agreed.
I think that's where the defensiveness comes in, because I think the Leinster fan base will say, no, we produce these guys, and everyone else goes, no, you fucking pay them. So I think that's why this is such a COVID-esque lab leak topic.
But if we move past this to this week's game, Leinster, perennial semi-finalists in the URC, against hosting the champions of the URC, and smashed them by 52 points.
Oh my God!
There are mitigating circumstances in Glasgow's favour, or to defend Glasgow, in that they were missing 7 or 8 full internationals, 7 or 8 of their first lines. I mean, they had a bare bones squad out, did Glasgow.
Yeah, Hewitt, Pilotu, Mackay in the back, in the back line, and then in the pack, Dempsey, Cummings, Fagerson. Fagerson went off after 60, but the other Fagerson, and then a couple of others as well. They basically start first choice front row, with Johnny Matthews maybe excluded, second row and back row. Yeah, you could argue they've got a pack out, a high quality pack out.
That said, what I think was really damaging for Glasgow is they didn't play that badly. So when you're watching, you're like, oh, yeah, they look like they can handle themselves, but they were just overpowered. Like they didn't. Do you know when you watch teams and things don't go well, or balls don't go to hand, or whatever it is? That's not what I saw. I just saw a team which is completely outmatched.
It was one of those reminders of, for all of the tactical analysis of moves and this, that, and the other, fundamentally rugby is a game of physical domination, and if you win that game of physical domination, it becomes very simple.
Yeah, Sneyman started running wild at points. I couldn't agree more. Prendergast looked... sorry, I keep swearing, I don't know why. Prendergast looked superb. As did Geordie Barrett. In fact, actually, a lot of them did.
Yeah, it's always it's always a great time to put a marker down for the Lions or for your international ambitions when you're smashing teams by 50 points week in, week
Yeah,
out in the knockout stages of the biggest competition that you play in.
yeah. I just can't help but think Leinster are going to. I don't know who they're going to lose to this year. This could be it. This could be the year they win it. With DuPont out, Toulouse did not look unbeatable. Who's their big
Toulouse.
threat? Bordeaux.
So one of I think the kind of sneaky stories from the last 2 weeks, alongside the fact that there's these enormous one-sided games, like Bordeaux have barely had to get out of second gear. Leinster have not conceded a single point in 2 games.
Just to emphasise that, it's Russ Petty straight on there with the facts. It's an amazing one. So I think now this round has concluded. There have been 260 Champions Cup knockout games over the 30-year history of this competition to this point. 260. Mm-hmm. There have only ever been 2 games where a team has failed to score in a knockout match. They have both been in the last 7 days, and they've both been Leinster shutting up shop.
Now,
Ridiculous.
you do a bit of URC, Tim. You do a bit of South Africa. Is this the near-Narber defensive approach?
Definitely part of that. Well, I think fundamentally, my read of this game was exactly like yours, JB. Is rugby's a complex game, but it becomes very, very simple when one team is just completely physically dominating a side. They were winning every collision, meant that Glasgow couldn't impose their attacking game, and they were winning every collision, which meant that Glasgow couldn't implement their defensive game. And the ball was so quick. It was on a plate for Gibson Park. Prendergast has got all the time in the world, looks like a superstar, and everything else falls into place. But there is definitely something to be said for the way that Leinster are defending, even over and above that, which I think is Nienaber and what he's doing. And what amazed me about Leinster is not just that they were blitzing at times and shutting down that little pod of forwards with the fly half out the back. They were shutting that down. It's that the intelligence of how and when Leinster all do that or all don't do that. And the hive mind that's coming through in Leinster in the last few weeks is amazing. The fact that they are all in tune and seem to instinctively now know, and I'm sure it's taken a lot of coaching, but instinctively now seem to know when to do it and when not to do it. And they all do it together. And that's the amazing bit about Leinster.
Do you know what impresses me about that? It's not necessarily the cohesion. I mean, the cohesion's amazing. But it's the fitness, right? Because to make good decisions requires intense fitness. So you try and make a good decision when you're knackered. You won't. You will make the decision which most suits your physical state for the most part. We saw it we saw that with Ollie Lawrence, with that try where he's sort of jogging back. So you've got to be incredibly fit just to have the alertness. What do they say about boxers? Boxers are so afraid of being tired they'd rather be knocked out because they drop their hands. And so for Exeter to continually make good decisions as a group requires incredible team fitness.
I agree with that. It's a hard place to be when you're in that condition, and it shows a very good team that is that cohesive.
I guess also a sort of there would have been a lot of teams down the years who might have got 3 or 6 or 9 points, but actually Leinster came out the blocks so fast in these games and dominated so much. In fact, they didn't score till 15 minutes, did they? But it was one-way traffic all the game in Glasgow's half. And when they did score in quick succession, Glasgow were already having to chase the game, so they couldn't build any scoreboard pressure with 3, 6, 9.
Great point.
I feel like in both games, because they didn't score for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes against Harlequins either. But in both games, they were just tenderizing their opponent. They were just smashing them so hard and drawing them in so much to the contact area that they were just making it easier for themselves later on.
Just on the scoreboard pressure stuff, it's made me think. That's exactly what happened in the Toulon game.
Yeah. Go on. The scoreboard pressure of keeping the scoreboard ticking.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I don't think, if I remember this right, I don't think Toulon got a single try today and got within a hair's breadth of winning the thing.
Yeah. And that was combined. So Toulon keeping the scoreboard ticking was combined with not Chamonix, the other one, Ramos. Having an uncharacteristic day on the tee. So Ramos is a 90% plus kicker. He is a phenomenally consistent pull kicker.
That's what he ruined his stats for the entire year.
He had a
he had a bit of a shocker against England in the Six Nations as well.
He did.
Yeah,
you're right.
But let's just talk about this a second, right? Just on these two individuals. Doesn't it blow your mind that Ramos and Chamonix were in the same team, even though it's only for a limited period of time?
And with were all the rest of the boys there at the same time?
Capuozzo and Malia were there. Capuozzo and Malia were both there. So they had, and then basically Kinghorn joined as Chamonix left. So I think that was definitely, we don't have space for all of you, and we really want Kinghorn.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there's a little bit more that goes on behind the scenes with this Chamonix fella, is there not?
Yes, certainly.
So
well,
what was he banned for?
Sorry? Oh, he was banned for making a racist comment on an Instagram video while he was away with France in Argentina.
That's right.
6 months. Yeah. It was a 6-month ban, which he's only recently come back from a few weeks ago. But the other bit of controversy, to summarise what happened with Chamonix, is Toulouse signed him off the books by creating a fake company. Well, not a fake company. It was a real company, but it was what they were purporting to do was to be spending money on academy and rugby infrastructure in Fiji. But it looks like it was a way to funnel the money secretly to Chamonix to not go over the salary cap, £450,000, which they said they were going to pay him back. But then when he went to Toulon, they never did pay him back. So Chamonix, who'd taken out two personal loans of his own to get himself out of his Perpignan contract to go to Toulouse. So Chamonix took out loans for £450,000 and was left holding the baby, not being paid out, and Toulouse just kind of washed their hands of him until it all came out. And now they've had to pay a €1.3 million fine and Chamonix pay him back his money with interest. So that's about €700,000 they have paid to Melvin Chamonix. So it cost them about €2 million. But it could have been worse.
No wonder he hit all his kicks then. I mean, we were watching a motivated man.
Well, yeah, the fact that backdrop and then it being Chamonix against Ramos, both two metronomic kickers who were teammates, and one had to leave, and Chamonix was the one that left. All the money situation as well that's been going on, and it looked in the first half like Ramos was just cracking. The crowd were like hostile. I love a hostile rugby crowd, booing, whistling, and it got to him. In the second half, did you not think it just a little bit? I thought Chamonix had a really good game, but it got to Chamonix a little bit.
I don't know is the answer. I mean, this is the only serious game of the entire weekend, as far as I'm concerned. Like everything else, interesting. Oh, no. We'll talk about Saints in a second, because there is something to say about that. But this is the only real game. This is the only European standard game which I think occurred. I don't know if you boys agree with that.
Yeah, like Leinster's performance and, the winning team's performances were European class. But in terms of a fixture, this was the only show in town. This is the one that saved the bacon of the competition because it's been awful.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Because So you are right to point out like the Chamonix kind of the Chamonix drama. Also, you know what I thought is like maybe some players are just better off being a superstar in their own team rather than part of a galaxy of stars. And I thought that about Chamonix because he has been so important for Toulon. I'd say most times that he plays, and I just don't know how a guy like that fits into a galaxy. It just seems to be a player that needs to be the centre of all attention.
I can see that, and it maybe wasn't a good fit for him at Toulouse, and maybe that's one of the many reasons, the myriad reasons
still
why
so young as well. It's worth highlighting. Was
How
he
old is he?
24?
I don't know. Not entirely sure. I know he's banging over goals from basically his own 10 metre. Very impressive.
Yeah, I think he's 24.
20,
other guy
20, he's 25. He's 25. He was like 20,
Yeah.
22 when he went to Toulouse.
The other guy who I thought had a field day, or two lads I thought had a field day, were Peter Aki. I have no idea where he's been for the last few months. Maybe he's injured, but he played very well. And also, who is the massive second row? Was it Tolofua?
Hey, Prime members, are you tired of ads interfering with your favorite podcasts? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hey, it's Matt here from P1 with Matt and Tommy, and we're currently being sponsored by Peloton. Peloton has what you need to achieve your fitness goals, no matter why you got started. From 4-week strength-building classes to running, indoor and outdoor workouts, and everything in between, Peloton is here to push you to achieve your goals, just like it already has for thousands of members worldwide. I got my first Peloton bike around the pandemic. It helps keep me on track with my own fitness goals, even around my crazy schedule. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com.
For Toulouse?
Yes.
Toulouse.
Oh, there's
Miafu.
Flamont. There's Flamont and what's his name?
Miafu. Yeah, he was running over people like they weren't there. He made so many heavy traffic yards.
Heavy traffic yards with an offload as well.
Yeah, wonderful to see. I mean, it's just lethal, absolutely lethal.
Well, in fact, the first try that wasn't a try, the non-try from Grow was exactly that. Miafu, heavy traffic carrying, offloads, scrum half accelerates onto it, nearly gets over the line and just loses control of the ball as he does so.
Yeah. In fact, actually, if that goes over, this could be a completely different game. Because I think the reason was so tight is because Toulon did build that lead. I think they got to, 12 something? Yeah, something like that. And that just means that Toulouse can't get out of second gear.
Mm. Yes. No, I agree. Good game,
but to your point about scoreboard pressure, it was because the conditions were a little bit drizzly, because Jaminet was nailing his kicks from even like 55, nearly 60 metres. Toulouse suddenly, like that, it's so good watching a game where territory becomes so massive. And
yes,
I think it might have been you or it might have been Phil in the past, but when small moments feel like massive moments, those are the games of rugby I want to watch.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what I loved about the scoreboard pressure is it just meant Toulouse had to really check themselves, think, we cannot make any mistakes anywhere in our own 10 metres. Like, just got to be squeaky clean. Like, one mistake, 3 points. That is a hard way to play your rugby.
Mm-hmm. But I think actually maybe the biggest story of this, which has been the story of the last 2 weeks, has been Toulouse probable favourites, even if not first seeds. And actually, they're the lowest seeds going into the semi-finals.
Are they?
But they probably are still favourites or close to favourites because they've won the last couple. But they've not played.
I'm going to correct you on that. I've just looked at the up-to-date Champions Cup betting odds, and I think this is probably due to the nature of the semi-final fixtures. Leinster are at home to Saints, whereas Toulouse are away at Bordeaux. The betting odds are 6-4 on favourites Leinster. Toulouse are second favourites 3-1.
Yeah.
So Toulouse got Bordeaux.
In Bordeaux.
And Northampton away at Leinster. But so
Northampton are going to So Toulouse are going to the neutral ground of Bordeaux's football stadium, and Northampton are going to the neutral ground of the Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
Oh, perfect! Two great neutral venues.
So, if we just ignore that, the actual bookies' favourites, but Toulouse maybe going into the competition were the favourites.
Yeah.
But they've not played anywhere near their best in the last 2 weeks. Like Sale gave them a real shock last week in the first half, and Toulon took them to the 80th minute this week. And maybe if things had gone different, they could have won the game. So that's maybe a bigger storyline than other things in the competition. The fact that Toulouse, reigning champions, they're underperforming.
They are missing a step, aren't they? There's just something which isn't like they're not taking those opportunities that they otherwise would do. That first try is a great example. They get that first try, and I think they're off to the races.
Yes. Yeah. And
they're missing the best player in the world and their key playmaker.
And I'll tell you who would have scored that first try. Antoine Dupont would not have lost control of the ball, and that he wouldn't have even been touched. He would have gone under the post, and should he have wanted to, he could have done a lawnmower celebration. But he's too classy for that.
Well, just on Dupont. So my theory, which is going to be proven wrong, but it's a theory I've got, is removing him from the Toulouse team isn't ideal because he's the best player in the world. But I also do think it will allow other players to do very well, in particular Ntamack.
He hasn't looked great.
He didn't, did he?
He normally is.
Yeah.
He made one break. I thought he's in here. He's in. He's going to do something. Didn't really happen. So maybe I'm going to have to wait a little longer for that prediction to come true, if it ever does.
Well, they've got the rest of the season. So they've got the semi-finals, and if they're lucky, the finals. The final to do it, which do I hope they do? No, because I hope my beloved Bordeaux smash them.
I like to see champions remain champions. I want to see. I don't know actually. What do I want to see? I want to see Leinster lose. That's what I want to see.
Now that your beloved Prendergast is controlling the Leinster team, surely you want to see them win.
No. I think next year I'm going to go heavy into. I think Racing. Me and Racing can reconnect if they carry on playing Dan Lancaster and Lancaster sends Farrell packing back across the channel. I think me and Racing would get on famously.
Well, Lancaster. I don't know if you caught any of the Connacht Racing 92 game, the famous win of Racing 92. But Dan Lancaster appears to be doing just that.
On, Dan Lancaster.
Owen Farrell kept on the bench. Lancaster pulling the strings. Farrell, immediate yellow card when he does come on. And Lancaster and Le Garrett controlling the game and winning it for Racing 92.
Oh, one of the Le Garrett tries that Lancaster, clean break, brilliant kick. It was good. Yeah, he's like there's a lot of jokes about Dan Lancaster being picked when Stuart Lancaster was there. He's being picked, and he's actually doing all right.
Do you know what the joke of this whole thing is? We always assumed it was Dan Lancaster holding back his dad. Incorrect. So the question now becomes: is Dan Lancaster more likely to make the Lions tour? Which coach's son is more likely to make the Lions tour? Ford, Farrell, Lancaster. The fight is on.
Lancaster.
And who is going to get the services if he doesn't go to the Lions? You know, who's going to get his services in the summer tour? Is Steve Borthwick on the phone to Dan Lancaster and Gregor Townsend? Desperately trying to get the saviour that is Dan Lancaster, Ealing Trailfinders, former Supremo.
Game of Lancaster, love it. Lancaster House.
Actually, the scorelines in the Challenge Cup were more like it. They were all close, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Bath.
Apart from
Gloucester were an abomination, and and Bath were good.
Yes.
Yeah, Bath might win this thing. I think
they I hope they do. I hope they win. I hope they win both competitions, actually.
So Bath go away to Edinburgh and Leon play host Racing 92. Those are the semi-finals.
Racing Bath. So Racing Bath final. Imagine someone told you Bath and Racing are going to play in a final at the end of the season. Which competition do you think it would be?
Racing and Bath. Oh, if you'd have said they meet in the final, I definitely would not have thought it was going to be the Champions Cup. Well, then maybe No, I wouldn't have thought that.
No, with that.
Racing will not be favourites for that semi-final. Leon are doing really well in the top 14.
Leon are good. Yeah, Leon are good. Yeah, and also Racing and Bath could be that could have been a final from like 10 years ago. Two great kits as well. Wonderful stuff.
I'll also say Leon beat Ospreys away with basically a B team.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I didn't even know they were playing each other. Do you want to talk quickly about Northampton?
Yes, please.
Because we've already mentioned anything about them.
Yeah, go on. Tell me about my new favourite player, most antagonistic man on the planet, Henry Pollock.
Yeah, well, actually, I think Tim's got a few thoughts on Henry Pollock, but I thought I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because Northampton have not been good in the Premiership this year, although we do know that they are a good team. So I'm just wondering, is this performance more indicative of who Northampton are this season, who they should be, or is this the aberration? And I'm not entirely sure.
Good question. I'll tell you what I did not expect from this game. I think had this been in Castres, they would have won. They would have won this match. They always win at home, and then they're a very, very different team away. But the one thing I didn't expect, the minimum that I expected from Castres going to Northampton would be that they would have a pretty robust set piece. And the fact that Northampton actually got on top at scrum time and were very tidy with their line out, that was the sort of forward performance that Northampton haven't had, which is the reason why they're in 8th in the Premiership.
Yeah, I think Trevor Davidson makes such a massive difference. Why he's not considered for England is beyond me. If you just want someone to scrummage, in the same way that Will Collier should have been looked at for England, I just give Trevor Davidson a go. And not only that, when he gets the ball, he doesn't make huge yards because he's not an explosive carrier, but he does make yards. Like, he makes very heavy yards.
Because he's 120 kg plus.
Yeah, he's strong as an ox.
Yeah, I think there's something in that England for a long time have not selected people for what they can do. They've not selected them for what they can't do. If that makes sense. Like the classic is James Simpson-Daniel was not selected for many. He got 6 or 7 caps or something like that.
Christian Wade.
But yeah, two of those, the two of them are perfect examples. Not selected because of their perceived weakness under the high ball and/or in defence, rather than the fact that they could score world-class tries from almost anywhere on the field. And Trevor Davidson is maybe a slightly different variant on the theme, but he's not selected because he can't do the Kyle Sinclair passes and offloads and isn't going to make meters with ball in hand, rather than being selected because he's a damn fine scrummager.
Well, just think about this, right? I mean, I don't know who plays on the other side of the scrum or a hooker, but a tight head stable of Stewart, Collier and Davidson does all of a sudden sound pretty terrifying, doesn't it?
Yep. It's meaty.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, we just finished with Collier and then Davidson comes on, or vice versa. I mean, I think that is a far better proposition for England than Will Stewart. I'm trying to think, who else are they using at the moment?
Joe Hayes.
Dan Cole.
Joe Hayes. Tight head.
That young crop coming through though, England. It's weird how these cycles go, and it's obviously a few years' work has gone into this. But the crop coming through, Joe Hayes probably being the eldest of them at about 24, 25 years of age. But for Sogbon, Opoku, Fajor, tight head prop's not going to be a problem for much longer.
Well, I think, okay, so here's just the thing I would say. If your tight head stable was, say, the guys we just mentioned, like Davidson, Stewart, not so much, but yeah, fine, whatever, and David Stewart and Collier, the message goes out towards all those young lads, which is, this is what you need to do. I actually think they improve because they emulate the massive scrummages and more massive scrummages come through. But if you're looking, the more ball playery type thing, for me, I don't know if you're right, Tim, because I think the guys coming through, they are strong, but they're not that sort of strong. They're not scrummagers first and foremost.
I hope you are right, Tim, because I very much like this everything about Fasogbon and Apoku for Jaw. So I really do hope you're right. But I also I think the signals of having your tight head prop in particular as the primary thing that boy should do above anything else is just be a massive lump to scrimmage, the cornerstone of your pack. Like what's his name? The South African tight head, Malherbe, Frans Malherbe.
Yeah.
The Stormers in South Africa. He's not picked for his hands. He's not picked for his explosive carrying or his outside break or his offloading or anything other than being a massive lump and a massive scrummager. And that should be it. That's where anything else is a complete bonus.
Yeah. It is but there are players that can do, like Ben Tamafuna. Some of his carries and offloads are ridiculous. I love it.
Oh, sorry, just on Tamafuna. Did you see the TMO review on him?
No. Remind me.
It was a high shot. So he suffered a high shot because he held his head.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what are we reviewing here, boys? This is ludicrous.
Oh, that was
there could not be a
on,
better tackle.
That was on. There was a couple like this over the weekend, but that was on. Oh no, was that? Yeah, that was Jean Klein, who is 6'8".
That's the one.
Hinged at the hips, back parallel to the ground, and a full wrap, and
didn't hit his head.
Ben Tamafuna completely. Well, in my mind, I can't. Only he knows the truth, but it looked to me like he milked it. There was nothing to see there. But the one thing that didn't happen after the 20 replays of this completely legitimate rugby tackle was Ben Tamafuna didn't get sent for an HIA. And it's back to your point. I think you said it, Phil. Anyone that clutches their head and goes down, like mandatory HIA.
Yes.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree.
If you're going to try and game the system, there can be some, fine, try and game the system, but there are consequences for you as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Also, Northampton game, some of the officiating was weird.
Piardi he was it Piardi, the Italian?
Constantly with the TMO. I mean, I didn't really watch it with the sound up. But is it the Kenmany try? What was wrong with that?
Oh, his foot was in touch, but it was...
Oh, was it?
His foot was definitely in touch, but as a result of a high shot, but they didn't give a penalty try. They didn't give the penalty try.
Yes. I mean, that should have been a penalty try.
If it's a high shot and that tackle was what put him in touch, then yes.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the rugby played by Northampton was outstanding. Although,
also,
just back to Ken...
What was the one where there was one that was given a penalty try? Oh, that was Munster. The penalty try was given, and Penno and Luku were just like, "You what? We were both covering. We were there, and it was
in the backfield.
In the backfield. So, yeah, there was a few loose moments officiating wise, but it wouldn't have affected any of the results.
No,
but no. Saints were dominant. Alex Mitchell looked really, really good.
He looked ace, absolutely. I mean, Furbank looked. I mean, Hendy, when he was on, looked like that guy's got a future. That guy's got a big future. When he came off, Furbank...
Even so, I agree.
Oh, breaking tackles left, right, and centre. He's such a dangerous runner.
It was great to see Furbank back for the first time in 3-4 months with a broken arm. He went off early though, didn't he? So he came off and then didn't last the game, which is a little bit worrying.
I wonder if they were planning to play him for, say, half an hour to come back. So maybe it was like that. We don't want him to play 77 minutes on his first game back, especially when the game was already won.
He did have.
Yeah.
I think it looked like he had a shoulder or an arm niggle, which is.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it was the same side. Yeah.
Oh,
I
interesting.
don't know if it was the same side, but worrying because I said this last year, and I stand by it if he's fit. I think Furbank probably goes on the Lions because of his versatility, able to play. He could fulfill the Stuart Hogg matchday squad role from 2013, where he was chosen as a fullback and the third choice fly half.
Yeah, I don't think he's as good a playmaker as, say, Marcus Smith at fullback.
No.
Sorry. I don't think he's not as good a playmaker, but he might be as good a playmaker from the fullback position. I think he's better as a fullback than Marcus Smith. Maybe not quite as good as the other boy, Stewart. But I agree with you on the versatility as well.
Tom Jordan's the other one that's in that mould.
Yeah, Jordan,
yeah, he's a very good player.
Jordan can play. I mean, he's only got a handful of Scotland caps, but he could, because of his versatility, he could play himself in, particularly because he has the added advantage of playing the problem position of 12 as well as 10 and 15.
Did you think, as an area of concern for Northampton, which is going to be exposed brutally when they play Leinster away, have they already played Leinster away? Why do I think they played Leinster away recently?
They lost by, 7 points last year in the semi-final?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. I think their lack of physicality in the carry is going to come really find them unstuck. Now, I don't know how physical Cast are by top 14 standards, but I just thought Kemeny kept on getting melted in carries. Who was the other one who I thought had a really hard game? Like one of the second rows.
Maya Vanua.
No, the other one.
Coles.
I was going to say Moon, but he's in France. Just tough games. Tough games. They need to get more carrying power.
That is it's their problem. It's their weakness, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge problem. If you think about how Leinster carry the ball, and I've spoken about this before, they've just got heavy carriers, they've got footwork carriers, who then turn into heavy carriers once they've broken your line. They carry in so many different ways. And I think Northampton try and do it. And maybe their most effective carrier is... I don't even know who it is.
Augustus is
who is
probably
it?
there.
Augustus, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't like him. I don't like him because I don't think he's either the heavy guy or the outside break guy. He's not quick enough for the outside break. He's not big enough for the heavy stuff. So maybe Pearson when he's fit, but he's not been the same guy since leaving London Irish. So they do need somebody desperately.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Phil's pretty happy where Joano Augustus is heading next year.
Yeah.
Was he going to Ulster?
Ulster. Yeah, I'll take him.
Really?
I mean, he is not going to solve Ulster's problem. We do.
No, he is not.
We do need Ulster need a couple of explosive carriers, and he could be one of those guys. But even
I
with,
don't know.
I mean, Ulster need like 10 new players to be competitive, and maybe 10. If Leinster have 32 full internationals, Leinster probably need 27 full internationals to be able to compete with that.
Yeah.
When Augustus is on, he's really good.
Yeah, I mean, because he's a bit of both, isn't he? He's a bit fast, he's a bit explosive, he's a bit strong, but he's not absolutely one of those things. You couldn't pigeonhole him. I tell you who Northampton would love in his prime is a Dave Ewers. That's what you need.
Or Louis Pickamoles.
Louis Pickamoles, perfect.
King Louis.
So, yeah, just someone to get over that line, reliably to get over the line. Other than that, did you see the first Tommy Freeman try? That was cool.
So that was very cool.
Very cool.
They just chew up yards that wide. They just absolutely chew yards up. It's so cool. Their backline is. And Berger Rodendahl never gets mentioned, but he's so good.
Yeah. Now, that's the guy who gets over the line for them.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting with Berger Odendahl because everyone talks about Northampton's hands and how good they are and how they play out the back and yada, yada, yada. But when Odendahl is available, they always play him because rugby requires you to get over the gain line.
Mm-hmm.
And the threat of Berger Odendahl, after he's done that a couple of times, is enough to hold the space for Tommy Freeman and Furbank out wide.
Yeah, totally agree. So you'd say when you're the more attractive pairing is Dingwall and what's the Scottish lad called? Hutchinson, who are awesome, by the way. They are marvellous players, but they just don't have the size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you got some thoughts on Henry Pollock, Tim?
I do. I absolutely do. I flipping love the kid. I mean, Phil already mentioned how much he enjoys him. I'm going to say that I think we are watching at the moment a classic example. You could put this in the encyclopedia underneath tall poppy syndrome, which is which refers to people that have success and promote their own achievement, and they face intense scrutiny and criticism of that because they have ability and confidence. And it's so weird talking about this. It's so relevant talking about this while I am in Los Angeles. One of the things that I've been really struck by and really, really enjoy is how in this country there is just this, in America, there is this amazing amount of optimism and people are quite happy to celebrate why they're great. And it's so refreshing coming from the UK to a place where people are not shy about being confident in their ability, in what they have to offer. It's just so nice. And rugby is such an English sport. I mean, it was originated in England, but it sort of more so than football, it has sort of retained that Englishness that was at its core, the rugby values type stuff. And I just think it's England, but it's rugby as well, more broadly, doesn't like it. And when you think about some of the characters who have been most revered and most loved and are also really, really good, the people that are celebrated the most are guys like Johnny Wilkinson, like Richie McCaw, humble, quiet, unoffensive, and all of these other things. And rugby seems to have a massive issue with people who express their ability, confidence, enjoyment in whatever way. And I think rugby needs to get over itself.
Yeah, there is a certain element of reporting which isn't helpful. I mean, look, you look at some of the reporting in the Times this week. David Walsh is at it again, just catastrophizing the world, making money out of the saddest stories possible by making them even worse than they need to be. And it's just not surprising. Like, they don't value people who, like you say, Tim, that self-confidence, that swagger, it's almost looked down upon. And I think we've seen it time and time again. Now, sometimes they are correct. Example, Danny Cipriani, an amazing player, all the talent in the world, but a deeply flawed individual, and that probably came back to haunt him within his rugby. But if you can harness that confidence, that cockiness, and take your game to the next level, you should be celebrated. You should be, and these guys aren't.
Yeah, completely agree.
Case in point, I'm looking right now at a Rugby Pass article. 5 hours ago, this was published as we record this. Rugby fans level same reproach at Henry Pollock following Castra match. Northampton Saints flanker Henry Pollock has drawn a mixed response from supporters following his performance in the quarter-final win. Blah, blah, blah. Unnecessary showboating. And then they go on and highlight lots and lots of comments from the internet. Pollock needs a lesson in humility. Outstanding talent, but dot down first and celebrate after. Another noted, I read something saying he's not arrogant. Seems like he is, though. The delayed score, the basketball shot afterwards, the walk-off. I feel like he'd have been filled in if he played 15 years ago. Such a pity. Oh,
yeah, good luck.
Such a pity he taints his talent like this.
Can I just say, anyone who thinks they're going to fill in young rugby players now from 15 years ago obviously hasn't seen the difference between the size of the boys now and then. Good luck. Good luck. Or like, if he was playing in the 80s, Moore and co would sort him out. No, they wouldn't. No. You have very much the wrong end of this.
That second try as well was scored after the Cast player had a yellow card for trying to fill in Henry Pollock when they took him out of the side of the ruck, and he showboats after. Like, he's showboating because they've tried to hurt him, and he's the one coming out laughing. Like, I'm massively on Henry Pollock's side in this. He had every right after scoring his second try, after he's been playing great all game, after they've tried to injure him, to enjoy that second score. And anyone who's missed all of that, they have no idea what they're talking about, and they shouldn't be given the airtime by Rugby Pass.
I mean, yeah.
No, they're not giving me.
We've all played against someone like this who's really, really good, knows it, and lets you know how good they are. And you want to go and try and legally, in a rugby context, do the equivalent of filling him in. That's part of the game, but that doesn't mean you should. Yeah, just the vitriol being aimed at Henry Pollock. I just other sport. It's weird. It's almost like. Do you think there is a correlation between the fact that more successful sports don't do this?
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the concept, right? Of if he played 20 years ago, he'd get filled in. And then you remember that the England under-21s are like 20 kilograms heavier than the England World Cup winning side in the pack. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, genius. What was I going to say about Pollock then? Well, it's gone. Carry on.
There is an argument that, put the ball down and then celebrate. If I was his coach, I might just say that, but... Like, if that was a really important game, but he wouldn't. I'm sure he wouldn't have done what he did on the second try. To Phil's point, had Castra not illegally been trying to smash him at breakdowns, were they not already 40 points up?
Yeah, exactly. He's earned the right to do what he did. Like, it's absolutely fine doing what he did. And
was it
in the next game? Someone else will try and smash him. And they might smash him and injure him. Or he might get away with it again and play amazing again, and we will see. But in this game, he came out on top, big time.
Yeah, I mean, nobody gives Mario Itoje this level of grief. And he is a nightmare. He's not a filthy player. He doesn't break the law. But he is such a wind-up merchant. He is such a pain in the arse. Now... Maybe it's the showboating before scoring tries. Itoje doesn't score tries, but I'm sure if he did, he'd be in the process of winding people up. I mean, like the Saracens clapping at every breakdown is pretty annoying if you're playing against it. So, I don't see much criticism of that. And I can't remember which NFL player said it. I want to say Deion Sanders, but the more I think about it, maybe that's not right because he played cornerback. But there was some controversy about dancing, and maybe it's Florida Gators, actually. It might have been... No. Is it Hurricanes or Gators? Miami Hurricanes. Why? It's one of the college teams, and they banned dancing in the end zone because these guys were scoring so much. And they said, look, if you want to stop us dancing, stop us scoring. Simple, isn't it?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So, I am a big Pollock fan. I have been since I first saw him play.
Yeah,
and he's engaging. Like, there's kids turning up to Northampton games with his haircut, dressed up like him. It's just cool to see. So I wish rugby would kind of celebrate it. It's like James Lowe's a bit of a shithouse as well.
Completely.
And it's weird. Like, I think Leinster fans probably think James Lowe's the absolute nuts, and they think it's amazing, and they think he's backing it up with his performances. Yet simultaneously they'll say, "Oh, Henry Pollock's disrespectful. He needs to show some humility."
Well, just on the Rugby Pass article, do you know who wrote it?
I've just gone off it. Sorry, bear with me. It was Ian Cameron.
Oh, right. Don't know then. So, don't know why that. just maybe a reaction to. Don't know.
It's clearly what people are talking about, and he's just reflecting that by posting a load of comments that people have made. It's kind of that's it. And he's putting the other side of it. He is putting other comments as well. He's not actually putting his own opinion in there. He's just saying, here's what some people are saying, here's what other people are saying. So,
yeah, well, long way to continue. Well,
Yes.
as long as I'm winning. He's not as long as he's winning.
Hey, it's Matt here from P1 with Matt and Tommy, and we're currently being sponsored by Peloton. Peloton has what you need to achieve your fitness goals, no matter why you got started. From 4-week strength-building classes to running, indoor and outdoor workouts, and everything in between, Peloton is here to push you to achieve your goals, just like it already has for thousands of members worldwide. I got my first Peloton bike around the pandemic. It helps keep me on track with my own fitness goals, even around my crazy schedule. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
he seems like a really affable, nice, down-to-earth bloke when you hear him chat.
Do you know what?
He takes the piss out of himself. He even made a joke when he went up and chatted to the panel. Lawrence Dallaglio and Pat Lamb were there, Martin Bayfield, and he sat and he was taking the piss out of himself, getting absolutely sat down by the Castra fly half.
No, that is embarrassing.
Yeah, he was
did
the
he
one
do
taking the mickey out of it.
Did he do a TikTok dance?
He didn't, but maybe he should have. Everyone would have been all right.
Maybe he should have. Yeah. Oh well. So, how do you think the semis will go?
Yeah, how long have we got till that? It's 3 weekends, isn't it?
Yeah,
3 weekends.
First weekend in May.
Yes.
3 weekends of glorious Premiership now.
Leinster Northampton that will be a comfortable Leinster win. Bordeaux Toulouse, that's the interesting game of the semis.
And Bordeaux have beaten Toulouse twice this year already.
Bordeaux Toulouse.
But I think in any of the big games,
we're not flights off to Bordeaux Toulouse
because I think they're just more used to playing those big knockout games. And
we're not flights. I'd love to go and watch that. That might be one night I go and watch.
They played each other at the end of March. That was
3 weeks to organise it.
First choice. That was almost a second team for Toulouse.
Yeah, and it was
pretty much a full strength team for Bordeaux.
And Bordeaux went 3 or 4 tries up in the first half, and then Toulouse, even though it was a second string team, came back and ended up being a very, very close game.
Yeah,
because Toulouse never know when they're dead. Like the other game that I watched this year in the top 14, second string or maybe even third string Toulouse team against a first string La Rochelle team, and La Rochelle only just won in the last minute because Toulouse never, no matter who's on their team, they never know when they're beaten.
The flip side is at the start of the season, it was in Toulouse, and both teams had a pretty much first choice team, and Bordeaux came out 16-12 winners in that one.
Yeah, but the top 14 final tells a different story again.
Very different.
A very different story. And I think when it comes down to it, that's the game that matters the most.
Yes.
And we're back to... just to mention the scores in the Challenge Cup. We've already mentioned Racing. Lyon beat Ospreys. Edinburgh, that was a good game against the Bulls. I watched that one. I didn't watch Bath against Gloucester, but Bath 61-26.
Yeah.
That's it. So who are the semis? Bath and...
Bath away at Edinburgh and Lyon against Racing. So we're definitely going to have a French team in both finals. And then either Premiership or URC in the other.
Yeah. So I think I'd love to go and watch the Bordeaux game. That's what I think. And I'm going to make inquiries into how that might happen.
I would love to watch the Bordeaux game. That would be pretty cool.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just?
It's a pretty cool place. But we got Premiership back this weekend.
Awesome. About time.
We do, finally.
So Sale are playing Friday night?
No.
They are.
It's Falcons against Northampton. Friday night.
I'm sure we've got Sale.
No, Sale are away at Quins.
What am I looking at then?
That's the following week. Sale host Saracens at the...
That's the one I'm looking at, yeah.
Stadium on a Friday night.
Shall we review...
By the way, free advertising for 2 years now for AJ Bell. AJ Bell do not sponsor that stadium.
Yeah, I know.
For 2 years, have not removed.
It's why it's taken ages till Investec actually went, go on then, the money's down low enough that we'll actually stump up and sponsor the Champions Cup, because it was the Heineken Cup.
Yeah.
Well, AJ Bell has not been removed from the stadium for 2 years.
I still call it the Heineken Cup.
I still call it the AJ Bell.
The beatdown boulevard, as Matt Cotton calls it.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I just say, Newcastle dealt another blow by the authorities, unjustly banning Steve Diamond for 6 weeks. Pathetic.
Steve Diamond, who accepted he had conduct prejudicial to the spirit of the game and accepted his guilt and his 6-match ban. So unless he does a Mourinho, and you wouldn't put it past Steve Diamond, Jose Mourinho, who smuggled himself in when he was banned as Chelsea coach for a Champions League semi-final, smuggled himself in a crate of towels in the trolley.
We've just been speaking, haven't we, about prodigious talents that people turn away from in rugby, and here we are banning Steve Diamond, the only thing worth watching in Newcastle for 6 weeks. Well done, everybody. Well done.
So Newcastle will play Saints. He'll probably rotate a few because they can't win in the Premiership. They can't get anywhere in the Premiership, so they're probably not going to go below 8th, and they're not going to probably go higher than 8th either. So not a lot on this game, to be honest. Not a great way to start the weekend. A game that means almost nothing.
Yeah,
followed by Exeter Bath, which is another game which means almost nothing.
Correct.
Bath will win that. I think Exeter will give it a good go because they're Exeter, but it doesn't mean much. Then you've got
Saracens. Gloucester's pretty good. Gloucester in 4th, Saracens in 6th, 2 points separating them, and they're playing each other. This is a big game.
Yeah, I think Harlequin, Sale, Saracens, Gloucester, Bristol, Leicester are good.
Yeah. With how many rounds left? 5 matches left. A loss at this point for those teams is you're staring down the barrel a bit, especially if you lose at home.
Yeah, agreed. So I think Harlequins lose, they're going to find it tough to get back into contention. Sale Sharks need this win. Leicester Bristol is interesting. I mean, I think Leicester desperately need to win, they need the playoffs at absolute bare minimum, or I think there's going to be some big changes at Tigers. That'd be my thoughts. So you can't go through this many coaches. You can't go through that many flights. If they win this year, they'll say, yeah, it's fine. If they don't, I think they're going to have a bit of a problem as a whole hierarchy.
Interesting.
That's my take. And then Gloucester, Saracens. Saracens should win that, shouldn't they?
At home.
Shouldn't they?
Yeah. I think at home, with a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, which then puts them into top 4. So I think by the end of this week, we see Sale and Saracens top 4, Gloucester drop out, Leicester drop out. No. Yes. Don't know.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly, but that makes it very interesting. If Bristol lose, it becomes really interesting because Leicester would be up with them, and the other teams would have Bristol in their sights, and they're up. And maybe it's only Bath that are away, and the rest are in a bun fight.
Bath have pretty much won the league, haven't they? At this point,
yeah, They're going to be top seed. They're 10 points ahead of Bristol. There's 5 games left, so Bristol have got to, Bath have got to win. Bath can probably get away with winning a couple of games, and they still finish top.
Yeah. So Bath
And
one
of those games next week is Newcastle at home.
Yeah. So they'll do Exeter. They'll do Newcastle. Bottom's on 65 points. 15 points.
Exeter away, Newcastle at home. Then they can put their feet up.
Yeah. Yeah. They can just
Focus on the Challenge Cup semi-final, and then chill out for the rest of the Premiership campaign, when they will play in their final 3 games. They will play teams, and this is where it could get interesting. If Bath just go, no, not really bothered about it. Bath's last 3 games, they play Bristol, Leicester, and Saracens.
Oh wow!
Who could end up being their opponents in the playoffs?
So they might be thinking, well,
Bath are away on their own, but they could be kingmaker.
Yeah, exactly right. How interesting.
Just a couple of an email I just forgot to mention earlier, talking about Leinster, and you reminded me of it, JB, because you said something along the lines of Harlequins or Leicester. They will want to win, or something like a fairly obvious statement. I'm not knocking you for it, but it just reminded me of this email.
They'll be trying to avoid the loss. They want to score tries and avoid conceding them.
Well, this is what Leo Cullen said after his interview on the Friday before. Was it after the game or before the game? Anyway, no, before the match. Leo Cullen said ahead of the Leinster game, he said, quote, "It's important to make sure we have enough points at the end." Oh, sorry. Making sure we have enough points at the end of the game is going to be important to us, I think. End quote.
Where came up with that genius idea from?
Very good. Very good. Right, are we done? We're done.
I think we're done. Unless anyone's got any other news, anything else to talk about?
We're done.
No.
Been listening or reading anything, Phil?
I'm finishing a book that a friend of the pod, Ollie Poole, bought for me, which I can't remember what it's called, but it's about a former spy in MI5 who, a British spy, who became kind of disillusioned and is telling all the warts and all story of the Cold War from British perspective. It's fascinating. It's not the best. It's not always the best reading, because as a Brit, it doesn't always make you proud to be British because of our failings. But I have.
Oh, you want to see what we're up to now?
Well, yeah, quite. I have every confidence that it is all entirely factually correct because of that as well. So that's quite interesting.
Do you remember when David Shayler was a thing? Do you remember him?
No. Who was he?
I don't know that name.
David Shayler got quite famous in the mid-90s. He was like a MI5 sort of, what do you call him? Like a whistleblower. And he made Have I Got News for You? But instead of having him on Have I Got News for You, they'd have him on a TV on Have I Got News for You? And he said I might look him up, actually, see what his central claims were. But yeah, he got quite big in the 1990s as this disgruntled British intelligence guy.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Who wrote it?
It's true story. I can't remember that. I've not got it with me on holiday.
Is it secret?
It's not secret. No. I'm not keeping it secret.
You can update us on it next week, Phil.
Will do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Tim?
We'll be together next week.
Tim, any recommendations?
Oh no, but I must tell you one thing I did, which it's a bit of a niche thing to say. If you ever go to LA, are you aware of a film called The Room?
No.
Regarded as the absolute zenith of the genre, so bad it's good.
Okay.
Oh wow, like Tornado.
Yes, but it's regarded as the best example of a terrible film. It is absolutely incredibly bad. And it's made by a guy who funded it himself to the tune of $6 million. He starred in it, wrote it, directed it, produced it, and he's quite legitimately one of the worst actors you will ever see. It's this guy called Tommy Wiseau. It's amazing. It came out in 2003, and I've watched it so many times. I've introduced loads of people to it. It is hilarious. But they have regular live screenings of it all around the world, but especially in Hollywood. And I went to, on Friday night, a live screening of The Room, and Tommy Wiseau was there to introduce it, and he did about an hour or more of Q&A. And this guy's weird. He's just, there's no one else like him on the planet. One of the weirdest characters ever. But this live screening, it was like audience participation, people shouting out funny quips. Every time this photo of a spoon, which is like, they obviously filled the set with stuff from a department store and didn't bother to put pictures in the photo frame. So there's these photo frames everywhere with spoons on them. And every time they're in shot, people throw these plastic spoons up in the air. And it was such a mad but amazing experience watching this. I haven't laughed as much as I did in a long time, so just would highly recommend. And if you haven't watched The Room, watch The Room. It's what, in fact, there was a movie. James Franco and Seth Rogen had made a film about, which was an adaptation of the book written by one of the actors about making The Room, called The Disaster Artist. Came out a few years ago. So watch that as well. Anyway, I've rambled on, but watch The Room. If you've never seen The Room, watch The Room.
I'll give it a go.
I cannot tell you who I've met this week or what I've done, other than to say I have met a collection of the most extraordinary individuals I have ever met in my life. But I can't tell you that until it's over a beer.
Excellent. Well, why don't I hit stop and you can tell us a little bit while this is all uploading.
Fantastic. Let's do that.
And maybe we'll share it another time. But until then, let the boys end.
Let the boys end.
Hey, it's Matt here from P1 with Matt and Tommy, and we're currently being sponsored by Peloton. Peloton has what you need to achieve your fitness goals, no matter why you got started. From 4-week strength-building classes to running, indoor and outdoor workouts, and everything in between, Peloton is here to push you to achieve your goals, just like it already has for thousands of members worldwide. I got my first Peloton bike around the pandemic. It helps keep me on track with my own fitness goals, even around my crazy schedule. Find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com.
Feeling drained, foggy, or just not yourself? This could be the effects of low testosterone levels. Henry Meds has you covered. Our testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, is available in pills, injectable, or daily creams. Many patients report improvements in energy, mood, and focus. Though individual results may vary, TRT may support sexual function. Go to henrymeds.com/TRT to consult a healthcare provider to see if TRT is right for you. Take the first step to feeling your best again and get $50 off your first month at henrymeds.com/TRT.